Hello and welcome to the 2 Minute Warning. I'm your co-host Perry Busby. The 2 Minute Warning is brought to you by the Westside Gazette, and I am proud to present as my co-host the publisher of the Westside Gazette, Mr. Bobby Henry. Bobby, how you doing, my brother?
Terrific and getting better. It's always, I look forward to Thursdays, when we do this. I know we talked about perhaps doing it every other week, but I sincerely look forward to doing this on Thursday, Perry. I'm fine, man. Despite of what we see in the news, nowadays, I'm well, and I'm just glad to be here. How about you, Perry? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And like you, I do. I look forward to sharing this time to talk about issues that I know concern more than just you and I. You and I spend a lot of time talking uh, about issues, but this gives us a chance to give the broader community a eavesdrop on what we're thinking, and also gives us a chance to learn about the community. So, man, I look forward to this time.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of things happening, and we have a scheduled plan, but from time to time, things happen and we have to change it. And I'm hoping
Right.
that our community would get involved and suggest some topics for us to really delve into, and perhaps giving us some individuals who could talk about those topics. Here lately, man, this gun violence all over the
Yeah.
places. Every time you turn the TV on, listen to the radio, somebody is create committing such a hideous crime, man. Even in the supermarket, it's
Yeah.
almost you can't even go shopping, for food to
Right.
feed your family without some bull crap happening. So I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. No, man, and that's why I look forward to this. We started 2 Minute Warning talking about an issue around voting that we thought everyone knew about, and started talking about things that we knew were prevalent and were suppressive to us.
Mhm.
And we started a conversation long before we got to where we are now, around this whole voter suppression. We were talking about those issues early on, and not in such a vindictive way as now being displayed by the main media.
Absolutely. So we have should I say introduce some stuff to our
Right.
audience, and that's always good. Before we go anywhere, let me ask those who are listening, if you would, the NNPA virtual conference is coming June 23rd. It's free. You can register at nnpa.org virtual conference 2021. So let me just get that out of the way because the things that we're trying to do, uh, uh, black news, the black press, the NNPA, is furthering this cause along and actually doing it. They're doing a great job. So it's a free conference. You can register. Uh, Chaka Khan, Chaka.
Chaka Khan.
Yeah. So she's one of the main attractions, but there are other young up and coming people who are doing positive things. So, and it's a learning experience. So if you
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
that's the www.nnpa virtual conference 2021. Yeah,
yeah,
.org.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And speaking of Chaka Khan, she has a great history herself. I mean, her name
Hmm.
and her upbringing. Chaka Khan was very much ahead of her time coming into the R&B industry. So I think that's befitting, but it's also befitting on what we do and what you were saying. We as the black press have to tell the stories that other mediums aren't willing to tell or don't deem important.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so that's why I look forward to conversations these conversations on Thursday, because we can, you know, delve into some things that otherwise I don't think you get a chance to see. And I think that's important. It's good to be different in this
Mm-hmm.
regard.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like I said, I'm grateful for it. And Perry, you know, we got some young guns and some seasoned people on the show tonight. So we should have a very, very enlightening conversation. You know,
Yeah,
it's that political
I think
season time.
so. Yeah, I think so. You
Mhm.
know, I'm always excited during the, I won't even say political season, but just around political
Right.
discussions, because they're just that important. And so, yeah, I am excited to have this group. And as we introduce this group, I don't want people to think that we're being exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
We want to hear from new voices. We want the community to hear. This is not just talking to Perry and Bobby. This is an opportunity to talk to the wider community, and
Yeah.
we welcome other candidates with new voices, new perspectives, to come in and come talk to us.
Okay. Now, if we're gonna be frank and open, we want y'all not so new people too, who have not talked to us. You know, we want you on here too, so we can discuss some of the things that you've done
Mhm.
and some of the causes that have come from the things that you have done that we
Right.
really need to talk about. So, you know, I mean,
Exactly.
we're open. You know,
Right.
if your friends are listening, please tell those who, you know, uh, you know who we're talking about. So come on.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. You ought to want to talk to the community. Again,
Yeah.
this is for me. As I say, I want to know who wants to represent me. I don't need you campaigning in the vacuum. I need you talking to me as often as you can. And
Hmm.
we can't. We these positions are too important. The time is too critical for us to do business as usual.
Yeah. Okay, Perry. Come on, man. Let's open this thing up. You know, let's bring them on to. Will new voices have answers to old problems? So we're gonna
Great.
join in the conversation. Who we got, Perry? Who we got?
Uh, our first guest is a young man. When I first met him, he was just out at some of the local protests. He was an advocate. It wasn't until later that I learned that he had run for an office here locally. Uh, but I found him to be a very engaging young man. He has a background uh, that I think speaks to a very important segment of our community. And he is running for state representative. He's in his early 20s, and I have gotten a chance to really know him really good. He is the president of the Democratic Progressive Caucus, and I want to introduce Mr. Elijah Manley. How you doing, Elijah? Take it. You're on mute.
Of course. How you doing, Perry? Perry Bobby, it's good
Let's
to see
not
both
mute
of you.
yourself. It's time to speak up now, brother.
Yeah.
It's good to see both of you.
Yeah.
Good, good. Well, tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. I know I'm no stranger to anyone on this call right now. I know both Bobby and Perry,
Hmm.
getting sick and tired of hearing this one. But I'm Elijah Manley. I am a resident of Fort Lauderdale. I'm 22 years old right now. A proud graduate of the great Fort Lauderdale High School, a flying L. Um, I also attend Broward College right now, studying history. Soon to go to graduate school for history as well. I'm running for the Florida House of Representatives, but that's just a spill. I grew up here in this community in Sistrunk. Um, I know Mr. Henry probably
Yeah.
remember seeing me, walk
Yeah.
up and down the
Yeah.
Sistrunk. Sometimes he give
Yeah.
me a ride home.
Yeah.
But I'm a product of this community. I know this community well, and I'm interested in taking the talent and the knowledge that I've learned over these past few years, engaging in the state legislature to bring resources to my community, to give back to my community. I started early in politics, going to commission meetings and school board meetings, skipping school sometime to go to those meetings. And got in trouble a little bit for that. But, I learned a lot along the way, and it taught me a lot. It expanded my knowledge of the civic process. It got a lot of other young people engaged in the process too, which is, always the goal here. And, I look forward to taking the talent, the information, the knowledge that I've learned along the way to Tallahassee to get things done.
Good.
Great.
We're gonna have a little conversation, Elijah. You've actually grown, man. I've seen you grow. I'm telling you that, and I'm proud to say, I've seen you grow, Elijah. So I'm telling you that. You know me, so I'm telling you. Yeah. Okay. Now that's one of the young guns. Now I have the privilege of introducing, excuse me, a seasoned saint, if you will. I've known this gentleman here for quite a while. As a matter of fact, he introduced me to Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. He helped me along that process. But this gentleman has an extensive background in banking. But not only that, he's well versed in connecting people to our supreme being. I know Mr. Wiggins personally. I've seen him work. So it's an honor for me to introduce Mr. Paul Wiggins, who is a candidate for District 1, Broward County School Board. Good evening, Mr. Wiggins.
Good evening. How you doing, Brother Bobby?
I'm terrific and getting better, bro.
Yeah, I don't know why you put me on the panel tonight with these two old brothers, knowing I'm the youngest one in the crowd. Yeah, when you talk about young voices, I'm an old voice, just a young voice in politics. But certainly, I'm delighted to be with you all here tonight. Brother Busby, thank you. Elijah, I'm looking forward to you and your counterpart hearing from you tonight, because I'm excited to see young brothers be on the panel tonight, because I often say to my congregation, if you're not at the table, you're on the and we need to be at the table. Now, my background is, as Bobby said, it goes back a long way. I come from a line of educators. My father, the greater Paul Wiggins, was a former educator. He's no longer with us. My oldest sister, Paulette, who's no longer with us, was an educator. I have two sisters behind me, Robin and Kathy, who are retired educators. And then I got a host of nieces and nephews who are also in the education field. And then I also have the pleasure of having operated the Richard Allen Leadership Academy, which was Florida's first all-boys public elementary charter school down in Miami Gardens, that I still receive phone calls today from parents to talk about how we made a difference in their lives. Now, Bobby mentioned banking. I was in banking for 24 years. I left banking in 2004 as the senior vice president with Bank of America to pursue a life in ministry. It's just I had ran from the call for a long while, but I finally acquiesced because I realized that I didn't have enough Nike tennis shoes to run from God. So I got in line. But it will be a delight to talk to you all tonight about education. Where do we go from here? And just some exciting things. And there's more perhaps we can say about my background. And certainly we look forward to Bobby smiling. In fact, Brother Busby, Bobby was the best man in my wedding.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man! This is gonna be a good discussion.
I hate to go public here to say that, Bobby, if you tell it all.
I'm not.
Let's have some fun. Let's learn together tonight.
Yes.
Great. Our third guest tonight makes Elijah look pretty much in Pastor Wiggins category because our third guest tonight is as close to what I would say is a prodigy. He's a very gifted young man. I had the opportunity this past weekend to hear him speak. And I'm a preacher's kid. I come from a long line of hearing people pull it, as they say. And when you can get a crowd and when you have a story that pulls people in, that really makes you special. And our third guest tonight is a 17-year-old high school student. He's running for the District 8 at-large seat. He is a young man who has lived beyond his ages. He's experienced some of the rawest parts of life, should I say. And him being here tonight and his running for this seat is a testament to his persistence, to his giftedness, to his parents who've instilled in him some great gifts. And I want to present Mr. Raymond Adderly.
Good evening.
Raymond.
How are you, Mr. Buzz?
Let's give Raymond a hand because he got a story to tell.
How you doing, Raymond?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Just fine. Let's tell us about you, because I know a little bit, but I want the people to hear about you.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, it's a privilege to be here with all of you tonight. My name is Raymond Adderly. I'm a candidate for Broward County School Board, Seat 8 at large. And yes, I am 17. Yes, I am a student. But that uniquely positions me to speak for students, teachers, and parents on every single issue, from mental health awareness to gun violence in our schools. And let me tell you, am I ready for a fight of my life? Yes, I am. So getting right into my story, as a young child at 7 years old, in my home city of Miramar, I watched my father get murdered in front of me and my two little brothers. So I watched a home invasion quickly turn into a murder in front of my own eyes. And I used to ask myself, well, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? And as I got stronger in my faith, I quickly turned that question to, well, who's speaking for people like me that's lost their father, that's moving from house to house because their mother's a teacher and can't afford to take care of 3 boys, send them to private school, and provide for food at home? So as I would move from my grandma's house to my mother's house to my auntie's house, my mom's coworker's house, the constant question continued to plague me. Who's speaking for people like you? And it's this last election cycle that made me realize that no one was speaking for the issues in my community. And so very quickly, the question came, who's speaking for people like you? To Raymond, what are you doing to speak for people like you? And so that's why I decided to run for the school board, because it's the class president of the graduating class of 2022 at Fort Lauderdale High School. Far too often of a time, go Els. Far too often I went to my administration to tell them what students were feeling, what students thought. And far too often I was kicked away and said I was being a revolutionary. Far too often people told me, well, Raymond, this isn't your job as class president. Go focus on fundraising and raising school spirit. But when I realized that there were huge disparities across this district, but at my school, it encouraged me to go a step further. And so I became the student advisor to the school board. But as a student advisor, whereas I can speak for as long as I'd like to on the issues like a board member, I still don't have a vote. So I can talk till I'm red, blue, or black in the face. But if I don't have a vote, I'm still not changing the community and my community in the way that I'd like to. So that's why I decided to run for the school board, because when I have the power of the vote, when I can talk and speak and vote for every issue up or down for students across this county, then our schools will be in a much better place with a much better advocate on their side. So that's why I'm running. That's why I'm here, and I'm happy to be here with everybody.
Whoa.
I told y'all. I told you.
Mr. Wiggins,
Yes, sir.
how does that make you feel? You're running for the school board. How does this make you feel?
It makes me feel good, Bobby, because what it does is there's hope. It does, because in the midst of all of the challenges that go all around us, we always should have hope. Because one of the things that let me tell you why I'm here, or how I got here tonight, Bobby.
Yeah.
Because I pastor a great group of people down in Dania Beach, Greater Mount Zion AME Church, and one of the messages that I preached, one of the first messages that I preached was from Joshua. Joshua 1st chapter, when God told Joshua to get up and go.
Yeah.
And the title of that sermon was, "Who's got next?" I'm looking at next as a part of the panel tonight, but I was challenged by one of my good friends as we were looking around the city of Dania in terms of finding some young voices, some new voices, and didn't see any. And my good friend, Bishop G. Emerson Scott, said, "Oh, why not you? Why not you? You got next. You got the voice that people know you. So it's time to step up." And I'm saying to these two young brothers, I'm saying to my generation, and I'm saying to all who are in between, it's got to be some more people to step up and get next. We need more voices at the table because that's where the decisions are being made. So I'm excited when I'm on with these young brothers because there's work to do. There's work to be done. And we cannot sit around and complain about what's not happening if we're not part of making something happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking at. Because when I hear Raymond talk, and I mentioned that I come from a line of educators, and it is no question when you begin to look at systems in America, in particular systems in our community. The system of education is one of the systems out there, and one of the greatest relationships is the relationship between a student and a teacher. Everybody on this line, everybody in our community, everybody who has made it somewhere in life has had the relationship of a student-teacher relationship. So as we move forward, we got to talk about how do we undergird, how do we support that student-teacher relationship? And we'll be talking about more of that as we move forward.
Okay. Elijah, you have not had an easy role to hold yourself. When I said I was proud of you, I remember your high school days, when you were running for position, and so what have you learned, Elijah, from your experiences, from coming from the difficulty, to where you are now, and what do you hope to bring to where you're going?
That's a really good question, and I think the thing I picked up along the way the most is how to listen. That hasn't always been easy for me. I do like to talk, but listening to other people, resonating with their stories, and really putting myself in their shoes, really got me a long way in this. I know people like myself and Raymond aren't the only people in the community who have gone through a lot, and I humble myself when I talk about a lot. In 2018, I knocked on about 85,000 doors in the Broward County, And along the way, I heard a lot of stories. I heard a lot of people. I saw how a lot of people were living. And, it really humbled me because, while I had a lot happen in my life, I quickly learned how fortunate I was and how unfortunate a lot of other people were. So I learned to really listen to what other people were saying, whether or not we agreed or not on a lot of different issues. And, that has got me far because, learning how to listen to what other people are going through and taking that, I think that's an important tool to take to Tallahassee, when we're talking about any issue. When you get to Tallahassee, you need to be strong, you need to be forceful, you need to be passionate, and you need to know how to work with others, and you need to know how to listen too. And I picked that up along the way in 2018. And, growing up, I always saw, how people, wouldn't listen to me. People, they brush me off as just a young person, who's just a little too passionate, or it isn't his time yet, or, maybe he'll change his mind on certain things or don't listen to him. And, seeing that front and center happen to me as I grew up, kind of got my gears going. And now I'm in a place where I'm more likely to listen to other people, to put myself in other people's shoes, to, hear their struggles and actually act on it, because I was once in that position too. So, I learned a lot along the way, and there were so many lessons and journeys. And, another quick thing that I learned along the way, and this is more, this can be, as a candidate, for any candidate to take, but also for anyone out there in any situation or any industry, is you don't have to respond to everything. There were a lot of people who got under my skin, and I know Mr. Henry saw how I did sometimes. But I kind of learned you don't have to respond to everything. Not everything, requires our response or our attention. And, it really tells you that, where you put your time, where you put your energy speaks to your character and who you are as a person. So I picked up a lot of things, and I also heard a lot of stories from people in the community too. And, I've been speaking to tens of thousands of people in Broward County and in District 94. And, I got to tell you, the things I've heard, the stories I've heard, the tables I sat at, and had dinner with people, I learned a lot. And, that's experience that, you only get from running for office, and that's experience that's valuable as a legislator.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, and you touched on something I wanted to ask you and Raymond. Yes, it's quite easy to brush off a candidate because of age. I'm reminded of the Good Times episode where you had the young guy, and he just didn't know how to get with the people. He had good message, he just didn't know how to get with the people. What has been the most challenging part? I know that we have young people who want to get engaged, but you also have this battle of trying to get with older people who sometimes think that you may be a novelty. What has been a challenge so far for you guys?
Well, definitely, what's definitely been a challenge is getting people to take you seriously. Having people understand that you know what you're talking about. And so when I realized that was the biggest problem for not only my campaign, but for me as a candidate, or me as a public speaker, even speaking on the issues, was that my uncle told me very quickly, if you don't know the numbers, if you can't drop the receipts on people, then they are going to look at you funny, like you don't know what you're talking about. So now today, ask me any question about the budget, and I'll be able to tell you the number. Today, ask me any number about the demographic of our school, and I'll be able to tell you the number, because I was able to go and do my research and apply. The Bible tells us very well, study to show thyself approved. And so if you study and you study and you are listening and you're a good steward of the resources that you have, and you're able to provide that for other people to understand, then now you become even better at explaining the issues. So now it's very easy to explain why here in Broward County we have a failing smart bond system or smart bond initiative that isn't working for our lower income communities. And why can I tell you that? Because, for example, Stranahan High School, which is in Sistrunk, which is where Elijah's from, That school is literally crumbling. And we've known this since 2003, and we haven't acted on it yet. In 2003, a Castaldi report said the school was 75% obsolescent. In 2018, they said it was 100% obsolescent. And we still haven't done enough to do that. So the school board wanted to take a measure to spend $11 million to add more seats in this cafeteria, to add on to a building that was 100% obsolescent, but for the price of $6 million more in the same time period of 15 months. In 15 months, that school could have had a knockdown cafeteria and built a completely new one. Now, when you tell that to a voter, they have no choice but to listen and but to say, well, that makes a lot of sense, rather than me coming and saying, well, Stranahan's an old school, it's crumbling. Because that's just, qualitative. What the voter wants to hear is a candidate that can both be qualitative and quantitative. Tell it like it is, but also put the numbers behind the facts. And so I encourage any young candidate, any person that wants to run for office, run, do it. People have provided the pathway for you to do that. You can do it, but you got to study to show thyself approved. So know what you're talking about. Number one, make sure that people understand that you know what you're talking about. And number three, if people don't want, I don't remember who said this. Oh, it was Shirley Chisholm. If they don't give you a seat at the table, then you better bring a lawn chair, and that's the truth. Mm-hmm. Because people are going to push you out. They're going to tell you can't sit here. They're going to tell you to wait your turn. They're going to tell you maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this isn't your passion. Maybe you should be a lawyer at the NAACP or ACLU. By the way, people did tell me that. So, but you got to say, no. I'm in this to win it. I'm in this to do it. And here's my reason why. And that's the last thing I would encourage. As a young candidate, you can't be out here just, going crazy, trying to get a vote or trying to get a position. You have to have a strong why. You have to allow people to see your passion behind why you want to do this. And if you can accomplish all 4 or 3 of those things, then you're a force to be reckoned with. And Elijah's done that, and I'm doing it, and Reverend Wiggins is going to do it too. So that's all to it.
And and there are a lot of our viewers out here who are commending each one of you. You got Betty Lumpkins. She said, you start young, you young man, you make us proud. You got Robin Rentz. We need some young blood, fresh and new ideas. Ms. Lumpkins even said, way to go, Mr. Wiggins. So people are feeling you what you're saying. And one other comment. Oh, okay. Robin said he knows what he's talking about. I work at Stranahan. So when people are listening. Now, we all are galvanizing ourselves around a theme, and I know, Paul, you're between 2 bookends now. I'm gonna put you right in the middle. You're between 2 bookends, 2 young, strong bookends. What would be your motto when you're out on the path running for your office?
The motto that we have come up with, Bobby, is education. It's a community affair.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Education. It's a community affair. And what do we mean by that? Because I'm going back in years, and I remember education growing up. And again, education is education, no matter what time frame you see it in. You got that student-teacher relationship. But a teacher can't do it all by themselves. Mm-hmm. So how do you build a circle around that student-teacher relationship? Yep. Starting with the parents or the guardian. They got to be on the inside. They gotta have respect for the teacher, like our parents had respect for the teachers when I was growing up. You got the business community. How do you tie the business community in with the local school? You got the nonprofit community organizations that got services that they can bring to the table. How do you bring that to the table so that everybody that's coming together can strengthen the relationship of the student teacher? Then you got the social service needs. We know that there's some challenges with some medical needs with our children, and we can't sweep that under the rug. How do we bring those services to support that student-teacher relationship, that at the end of the day, everybody wins, because we got to go into this thing with the understanding that every child has the capacity to learn. If we don't start at that starting point, then we miss the boat.
You're here.
So education is a community affair.
You're here.
Okay. You got Ida Harris watching you from Georgia. And then you got a comment, no teacher can't, no teacher can't, my son is one is not. Okay, I'm kind of messed up on that one. Percy Johnson is saying, I am enjoying this conversation. Okay, so let's keep it going, Perry. Help me out here now.
No, because Elijah is running for state rep. And, unfortunately, a lot of people don't really understand how important the state rep role is. I had the good fortune to come into Florida because of the Affordable Care Act. And that contract was cut short because Governor Rick Perry at the time didn't take the expanded Medicare option. I happen to know that Elijah, one of the biggest points of his platform is Medicare. So Elijah, tell us, what are some of the important positions that you feel as a state rep will help the constituents within District 94?
Right. Yeah. So it's so important that voters take the opportunity to look at the candidates' platforms in detail and really see what they're about to do, because a lot of times, you see people out in the community and they're running, but they don't have websites. We got to start there. They don't have platforms. So we have to have platforms, and we have to have websites, and we have to talk about those issues that are affecting people. So I've taken the time to do the research and the work to put together a strong platform. And I did tours throughout the community to hear what people really thought about what was going on in their communities. And healthcare was one of the biggest issues for a lot of people. And that's just one of those kitchen table issues that affects everyone's pocketbook. And, healthcare is so expensive in this country right now. We're paying, twice as much as any other developed country in the world right now. We're paying more than the next 50 countries combined on this per capita. And I support Medicare for All as a national program to move us away from a for-profit healthcare model. But in a state, there's a lot of things we can do without moving to socialized medicine. And one of those things is expanding Medicaid. Medicaid is just so important. There are, hundreds of thousands of people in the state of Florida who are on Medicaid. I was when I was growing up. And I was kicked off of it once I turned 21 because of the age limit. And that happens to a lot of people. This is a program that supports pregnant women, people living in poverty, and our children. And I have a simple plan to do this, but going back to what Perry said, Governor Rick Scott, when he was in office, did not expand Medicaid. He rejected the money that President Barack Obama kept offering the state, including Obamacare dollars. He kept rejecting, the federal government under the Obama administration offered billions of dollars in expansion dollars to the state of Florida. But Governor Rick Scott, our former governor, who is now our Florida senator and hopefully will be there no longer come 2024, decided that, we're not going to take these dollars. And let me tell you what that means. That means there are 860,000 people who are left out in the lurch, as our late Congressman Hastings said, who fought extensively for this issue. There are almost 1 million people who are left out in the lurch without any health care now, without any options because they can't afford it. So my plan is simple. We expand Medicaid. We take the federal dollars that the Biden administration is offering right now, and we do something else that the models are showing are working in the state of Massachusetts. We take the Kid Care program that we have, which is in the state of Florida, and we combine that right now with our Medicaid program, an umbrella program, so that we can get more federal dollars and we can streamline the program. There are other things we can do, and the most important part of that platform for healthcare is community health clinics in every low-income zip code in our state, including in rural communities. There are a lot of communities, especially of color, who don't have access to a hospital, that's, in miles. I know in Broward County, we're a little lucky, but in a lot of places throughout this state, there are people who live in rural areas and they have to go 20 miles to get to the hospital. That's not fair. That's not right. We need low-cost, sensible solutions available to people. But that's only healthcare. There's a lot of other issues affecting our state that isn't being talked about, like climate change. I know this is cliche. I'm a young person talking about climate change, but this is an issue that's already, we're seeing the effects of climate change already with sea level rise. And so in Fort Lauderdale, I've partnered, and I'm so proud to have the support of our mayor, Dean Trentalis. And I will work with him in the city to bring dollars to fix our infrastructure, make sure that we have clean drinking water, combat sea level rise, and make sure our infrastructure is up to par in the 21st century. And there's a lot of changes that we will see happen over the next 10 years as Fort Lauderdale grows, but also pouring that money into Black communities as well. Our infrastructure matters, our water matters, our housing matters. We need affordable housing solutions. And our public housing hasn't been updated since the 1980s. If you see the green apartments like I do every day, I asked myself, I went there one day with my mom when we were canvassing last year, and she said it looked the same way it looked when she was living in that apartment almost 35 years ago. Nothing has changed. And when I get to Tallahassee, I intend to be loud. I intend to use my voice. I intend to use the bully pulpit, and I intend to fight for those issues, whether it's healthcare, it's affordable housing, it's criminal justice reform, any police qualified immunity, no one is above the law, and making sure that we keep people out of prison and put people back to work. And that's why I support a Global Deal, a program that will fight climate change, that will create jobs in our community, that will save our planet. Look, climate change, not this cliche issue that's far from now. This is an issue that's going to affect us. It's going to, it's not just going to affect, our communities. It's going to affect the business community. It's going to affect those who live out on the beach, those who are selling real estate. This is going to affect the entire state. We're a tourist-based economy, and we need to be fighting to make sure that we can stop sea level rise and protect our community. So that's just a few issues. There are, a million issues. I've been talking forever, but those are some of the most important, I think.
Wow, let me do some. Let me back up and clear that issue up that I was having. Ms. Lunkins, I understand what you were saying now. You said, Bobby, it was meant that no teacher can do it all by themselves, and that's what she was saying. So I kind of messed that up a little bit. But Elijah, let me. How do we fight gentrification? The green apartments. I remember those apartments, but I almost cussed them. But when I see what's happening on Sistrunk with all of this building taking place, so how I like what you said. How do we fight? How would you fight gentrification?
That's a very important question, and I took the time to do some research on it. And I once they started coming over the tracks, I knew something was happening, and there are other plans. So I think there's a few key things that we need to do to slow this growth, this overdevelopment, and prevent gentrification. So the first thing we need to do is invest in Black home ownership. This is so important because in our communities right now, most people are renting, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with renting. My family does, but when we look at the income, the racial income wealth gap, and the gap between home ownership between the white families and the Black families, that's a massive gap, and that's where a lot of our wealth actually starts. That's how we start building up that wealth in our community, is by owning the community, owning the property within the community. So I'm proud to see in Sistrunk a lot of homes being built for people to buy in our community, but we need to make sure that's affordable. We also need affordable housing too, because what we're seeing right now is a lot of development happening throughout the city, and that's surrounding the northwest part of the city. And as a result, the property values are going up, the property taxes are going up, and as a result, the rent is going up. And there are a lot of factors causing the rent to go up, and those are just a few. But as a result of the rent going up, people can't afford to live there anymore, so they're being forced out of the community. So what we need to do is we need to, in my opinion, we need some form of rent control in the state, and this has been tried in a lot of other states already. A form of rent control. Now I know it's hard to do something like that in Florida, but it's possible to have a baseline level of control over what a landlord can charge in rent. Because if they just come in and say, hey, if you have $3,000 a month, then if you can't afford to pay that, get out. And then they flip those properties and then they sell it. And that's one way we can address the issue of gentrification. The other way is strengthen the public housing programs, more funding for Section 8 programs in the community. So, these are a few different ideas. It's going to be a lot of time to address this issue because, with development is a years-long project. These people look at decades, and they're looking at, how we can build, how we can buy property. But we need land and home ownership, Black land and home ownership in our communities. That's one way. And we need people who are not going to sell that property. We need people who are not going to flip, because when a developer come in, and be careful with what I say here, but be careful when, a white developer comes into the community and wants to buy up the land and the property. We need people in our community to keep that. But, this is a big issue with a lot of different ways to tackle this and come at this. We just have to find that right consensus way to address this issue. A lot of it is we don't want no development in our city because that could be bad, but we want to make sure that when we're developing, we're cognizant of the communities that we're developing in and what those communities want. Like, I was opposed to what they did when they knocked down the hospital on Sistrum, or what used to be the hospital on Sistrum. They knocked that down to build the YMCA there. I was opposed to that. I didn't think that was right to do. And we're going to see a lot of other things like that happening. These properties that are sitting on a corridor with no business or nothing happening, they're going to knock those down eventually and build stuff there. So we need to make sure when they do that, that it's in the best interest of our community. And Bobby, the most simple answer I can give to this is we need people to be engaged, because I sat in a lot of those meetings and nobody was there speaking up about this stuff. It was just a few people, the same voices in the community. We need more people involved in the civic process at those commission meetings when they're voting on these items.
Okay. Can I speak to that as well?
Yeah, please do.
I think that Elijah is correct in all of the things that he said, but particularly that portion that he mentioned at the end about engaging the community in what's going on. Because it's not just Fort Lauderdale. Gentrification is happening everywhere. Let me share. I was participating in a city commission meeting one night when a larger community they had a conversation regarding trees in their community, whether to cut them down or to leave them up. It must have been 50 households on that Zoom call from that community to talk about trees. And guess what else I saw at the table? They had the children sitting at the table because they said, we wanted my son or my daughter to be on this call so that they can understand this process. And it grieves me when issues come in our respective communities. We can't get 10 people in the room. And when the decision is made, there's no need for conversation. The decision has been made. So I agree with Brother Elijah. Is we need to get back to that peak, so that place in time where we got citizen involvement on a consistent basis, saying this is what we desire in our neighborhood, and we're not going to sit still until we get it.
Okay.
Right. Raymond, we're gonna go back to the classroom. Now that we're coming out of, coming on the other side of this pandemic, one of the things is that we have to reimagine some things. Not, everyone likes to talk about getting back to normal, but some of this is about reimagining and setting anew. What are some of the things from your perspective? Because, man, I've been out of high school for 40-some years. So what does high school need now? Because some people would tend to think that, high school doesn't need to change. We need to bring these kids back to old standards, but that's not true.
It's not.
So what are some of the ways that we need to reimagine education within our schools and within our community?
I think that's a great question. Well, first of all, I'm in many ways, though the pandemic was very bittersweet to us all, I think that as far as education is concerned, it revealed very, very clearly a lot of problems that we have been ignoring for years. I mean, starting with the fact that in our public schools, we have an awful student to teacher ratio. I think that this year, that really, really, really exposed itself with virtual learning. As our teachers struggled with the engagement piece of engaging students online, but the students they had in the classroom were performing much better because they were able to spend more time with them. And as a student in the classroom this year, I can tell you that it was a very eerie experience. It was most times maybe 3 or 4 students in the classroom. The majority of the students were online. We had access to materials that other students didn't. So be that a printed copy of a study guide, or be that more one-on-one direction from a teacher when they turn off their camera or their microphone and tell the other students at home, I'm going to be here. If you need me, call me. Whereas they were helping us one-on-one in the classroom. So that's first and foremost. But how do we get this teacher ratio, student to teacher ratio down? It starts with getting more teachers in our schools and making sure that we can keep the ones that we do have. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, we have to pay teachers what they deserve. Pay teachers what they earn. When you have teachers, and this is basic economics, when you have workers that are encouraged, not because they love their jobs, and teaching is a profession that you have to do because you love it, but when you give them what they deserve, when you give them an incentive to stay and do what it is that they love, you will see better quality students coming out, better quality teachers, higher performing schools, test rates off the charts, because teachers are willing to go the extra mile. What's happening right now? Our school district is fumbling the ball on getting teachers what they deserve. I was going through the budget, as proposed for the 2023-2024 school year. And a majority of that money is coming from the American Rescue Plan. And I watched and I saw that $36 million was going towards hiring 427 new teachers. But the teachers that we have in the classroom already, maintaining their salaries, it was only $29 million. So that means a 15-year-old teacher will get less of a payment than a teacher that will be in the classroom for the very first year. That is a major problem. Skipping ahead to more things that we need in our classrooms. We need more mental health access. With this pandemic, we saw an increase of students that were reaching out for help as far as dealing with mental health crises and necessities. We had students that wanted to hurt themselves, students that felt lonely, students that were getting hooked to marijuana and vaping and alcoholism at 15, 13, 12, 11, because they felt so lonely. They had no one to talk to. And that's because they didn't have anyone to talk to. They couldn't come to school to speak to guidance counselors. But that's another thing. Our social health systems are so bad that the American Psychology Association says there should be one guidance counselor for every 250 students. What's the status quo in Broward schools? One for every 520 to 50 students. That leaves a system where we have guidance counselors that are so overburdened that they can't even talk to students on a day-to-day basis to find out what is happening with the child. If you talk to the elementary school teachers, they will tell you an entirely different story from a high school student. Speaking to elementary school teachers and elementary school parents, there is one guidance counselor for the entire elementary school. But a majority of the times, that guidance counselor also serves as the testing coordinator, which means as March rolls around, students are denied access to help, because that same guidance counselor is also trying to set up the tests for the students to take. That is a major problem. I mean, at Peters Elementary School, there was a 4th grade student just 3 weeks ago that brought a loaded weapon to school. I mean, these are things that we are still facing in our communities. But if we are not picking up the slack, jumping in front of the gun, or jumping in front of the ball before these events happen, then we are failing our schools each and every day. And then 2 more things that we need. First of all, we need better facilities in our schools. I talked about Stranahan, but Stranahan ain't the only one. There are so many schools across this district that are missing ACs. There's mold in the classroom, cracks in the ceilings and in the walls, and we're dropping the ball on that too. And that leads me to my last point, which is community schooling. Reverend Wiggins talked about it just a few moments ago. We need better community schools. If schools cannot effectively handle the necessity of the community, then what are schools really doing except educating our students? Which, by the way that we're educating our students is very outdated. We're still teaching our students as if this was the Industrial Revolution, where we have them line up in rows, raise their hand. We have to foster the creative minds of students all across this district. And if we can't do that, then we're failing our students. We need more community schools. I'm tired of having to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get to Fort Lauderdale High School because I have to take the bus. And the 2 schools in my community are so far behind the ball that they don't have a pre-law program, that they don't have a Cambridge program. So I have to go all the way to Fort Lauderdale to get that. But my mom looked at me very well and said, son, you ain't going to that school over there. Do you see the way it looks? And that is the reality of that's the reality of every parent across this county. They look at a school based off the way that it looks on the inside and the outside. They hear what they hear. So, there's a lot of fights that happen at Blanche Ely. There's a lot of fights that happen at Piper. So I ain't sending my child there. And so now we have less money coming into our budget, as we lose more students to charter schools and private schools every year, and we have to do better. So we have to make sure that there is a community school in every school district in this county. Now, it would be a pipe dream for me to say, unrealistic. I'm not here to sell hopes and dreams. I'm here to sell an idea of Broward County that works for every child. I'm here to serve pragmatism. I'm not here to sell you on a fairy tale, because if I sold you on a fairy tale, that would be me lying to your face. Listen, folks, I'm saying this is the most important thing. I'm not saying that every school needs to look like Fort Lauderdale or every school needs to look like a Cypress Bay, but we got to look at the gray line. There has to be some equity somewhere, and we got to start somewhere too, and it starts with having voices like mine, voices like Reverend Wiggins on the school board that can talk about their communities and get the job done.
Wow. Okay.
The doors of the church are open.
Man, if y'all could read some of these comments that are coming off the screen, you would truly know how much people are appreciating this new, fresh breath. And Mr. Wiggins, you included in it too. And this is where we have to work together. As Paul, as you said, education is a community affair. So this is where we have to come together and create this synergy that we need to move the pendulum forward. There was a comment that came across Raymond, and it was saying that, oops, we found a replacement for Mr. Runcie. But all the comments
talk about a budget hit, but
yeah,
that's another story.
That's another thing. But all the comments are generated based upon the dialogue that we're having. We, not just one, but all of us. So my question is, and I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in, and I can. We all are aware of the situation that was created in the transitioning of one of our great political leaders, not a politician, but a real politician, not a politician. Okay, that and Congressman Al C. Hastings and passing, the fallout from that, how do we deal with the fallout from that situation? What do we do to heal our community, to understand what happened and what needs to happen? Anybody want to deal with that first? Shall we go with the youngest, or shall we start with the seasoned?
I definitely want to.
Who want to jump on it?
Elijah.
Okay.
Am I on mute? No. Okay.
Mhm.
I just got to say, I was just really heartbroken when Congressman Hastings passed away. I remember when I actually wrote an article in the West Side Gazette about an issue that was important to me at that time when I was really young. And the congressman's office reached out to me. I was about maybe 14 or 15. And they said, we want to bring you to D.C. So you can meet the congressman and see the legislative system work. And at first, I was just kind of shocked that somebody would reach out to me. Someone in high school, like a member of Congress's office, would reach out. And I remember Congressman Hastings saying, come on over to D.C. Well, I'll show you around and everything. And, a lot of people put a lot of money to make sure I could get to D.C., travel there, get lodging taken care of, and go to his office, meet him, take pictures with him, and sit in the committee with him as that man really fought. That great man really fought for our district and fought for healthcare, being there with my congressman while I was in high school. And it really is what got me interested in that level in the legislative process. And, if I'm going to be a legislator, I'll think, it'd be hard to really live up to him, to live up to the example he set of how to be a good legislator. And I'll try to follow in those shoes. And his passing was really, I remember when I found out, someone called me and gave me a call that morning before the news broke publicly. And, told me, hey, he had passed away. And I was just like, what? Is this a joke? Don't joke like that and everything. And I just remember, their voice being just really deep. And I think, what we're seeing now, the fallout from that, everyone running for the seats, all the other seats opening up. I think in a way we're seeing two things. We're seeing a good thing that everyone is trying to follow into his legacy. And, democracy is all about hearing the different voices and everybody participating and running and having the different options to choose from. And another thing we're really seeing as well in the community is that, it's like when a giant falls, a giant passes away. For our generation, for me, when hearing him pass away was like hearing like a MLK pass away in a way. I don't want to compare anyone to MLK, but he really was one of those giants. And for me, my entire life, he was a member of Congress. And growing up, just looking up and seeing Congressman Hastings is just like seeing a giant. And, seeing him gone, and passed away was just like seeing, everything change. And now, everyone's running and everyone's going there. No one will ever be able to live up in his shoes. But he was like the last example that I have of, that generation that really fought for, civil rights, that really, in that way, he was really a stalwart in his own way. And I think if people really want to live up to the legacy of Congressman Hastings, they gotta start by having that passion that he had when he talked about healthcare and when he talked about the environment. And they have to have that passion that he had, and I remember, him telling me when we met for the first time in DC, the congressman telling me, like, we think alike, we speak alike, because we both, when we go to talking, we get mad. We know how to rile it up a little bit. And the congressman always said, don't just think with your mouth, think with your mind, and think with your heart. And that's a lesson that still lives with me today. That's a saying that really, really means something to me. And I think any candidate that's running for anything, and especially for Congress and all these other seats that are opening up, I really hope they're really not just thinking with their mouth, thinking with their ambition, thinking with anything. They're really thinking with their heart and their mind. Because like he told me, he was representing almost 1 million people. And these were real lives that he had to deal with. These are real people's lives. When you're running for office, you're dealing with real people's lives. You're dealing with people's health care. You're dealing with people's education. You're dealing with money that can really have an impact on people. And it's important for candidates to really understand that these are not No, this isn't about us. This isn't about me. This isn't about ambition. This isn't about, dollars and numbers and zeros. These are actual lives that you're seeing on a piece of paper. And when I read the state budget and I saw our budget on healthcare, all I could think about I didn't think about zeros and ones and billions and millions. I thought about the number of lives these are going to affect, because politicians will go up there and it's black and white and all they see is numbers, dollars, this, that. And the congressman is still something really important to me. And I think he'd be really proud of me for saying this today if he was here to listen to this, is that you have to think with your heart and your mind, because you're dealing with other people's lives. And lives are at stake all the time. And you have to really look at that. And, the last thing he gave me, and I wish I had him here with you, is he gave me his cufflinks. I know Mr. Harry remember that, because the picture, we got that picture published in West Side Gazette. He gave me his cufflinks. And these were cufflinks, very first cufflinks he wore, and his office gave me those cufflinks. I still have those. I hope to one day wear those, following his footsteps. But really, I have to say, no one will ever live up to be in his footsteps. But we got to remember that we are dealing with real people's lives here. And when we talk about policy and policy ideas and what we're going to do in our platforms, we got to look at this a different way. We can't just look at this and what sounds the best, what can win me the election. We got to really be thinking about who we're affecting with this decision and how we're going to be affecting them. And I think he was the best in that regard.
Yeah, I seriously have to agree with Elijah. I've been struggling with this for a while, and I'm seriously disappointed in the Democratic Party, most especially as we talk about the diversity, I guess, of the candidates, if that's what we want to call it, the diversity. But most, I'm really upset with the amount of opportunism that we see here in this race. I mean, it's okay for 5 people to jump in a race and think that they have the best vision. But when we see 21 people jump into a race, names I haven't even heard of before, jump into a race, people abandon seats that they just got elected to, abandoning their communities, leaving people voiceless for a chance that they might not even have to win this seat. It makes me very disappointed. And I think that as a people, I think that as people in a community, we really have to look to these candidates and really challenge them and ask them 3 things. What's your community involvement? Most of them are going to tell you, well, I'm a city commissioner. Most of them are going to tell you, well, I'm a state rep. Some of them are going to tell you I'm a state senator. The second thing we're going to have to ask them is, what is your vision for this district? And lastly, we have to ask them why. The way that you take out the astroturf from the real grass where you find the worms in, you find out in asking one simple question: why are you running? If you can find a sense of passion, a good link in the story, then you might have a good candidate on your hands. But if you hear something along the lines of, well, I've been in this community for a long time and I was its commissioner and I've done this for so long and blah, 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 then you know you're dealing with a candidate that is looking for a higher seat, looking for better pay. And that is something that I won't tolerate. And that's the bottom line. And you shouldn't tolerate it either.
Drop the mic.
And he said it. I wasn't gonna go that far. He said it.
Drop the mic. Brother Wiggins, what's up?
That's what we talk about in the 2-minute warning.
Yes.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, the 2 young brothers are right. At the end of the day, we need to be serious about making a difference in the life of the people. I would not be doing what I'm doing if I didn't think that I could make a difference in that community in which I'm willing to serve. Everybody truly has the right to do what they want to do, but the people have got to be the ones to vet it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Questions. And at the end of the day, choose the candidate who will best represent their respective area of responsibility. And at the end of this process, when the die is cast, win, lose, or draw, everybody got to be going in the same direction. Now, particularly if you're talking about following in the footsteps of a giant of a man we're talking about, we got to stay on one accord.
Paul,
You hit your mute.
Everybody can't win. We all got to stay on the same page.
Yep.
And please, I'm hopeful that there will not be no discouraging of opponents trying to tear somebody down so that they can build themselves up. Because that's not a winning formula in the end. Because at the end of the day, it's some more Raymonds and Elijahs and Sarahs coming behind us.
Yep.
What message do we send to them? Because our job, in fact, one of the things that I will be looking at is how do I, in the process of doing this, begin grooming somebody else?
Come on.
To get prepared.
Yeah.
Because I'm 27 years old. I can't do this forever.
I'm gonna let him.
And
great.
End of the day, are we moving the people that we represent forward? And let us not be careful that in all of this competition, that somebody might sneak in and get what is predominantly controlled by us assists in Broward County currently.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We getting kind of close to the end of this segment, but we gotta do this. We're gonna do this again. We got to.
Definitely.
Okay. If you guys just think for a moment, we're gonna give you a minute, Raymond.
And Bobby, before you do that, before we go there, guys, let's make sure that we have your email and website so that we can post them.
Yeah.
Before we leave here, so that volunteers, contributors know how to get in touch with you. We want to help you in every way.
Exactly. Put it in the chat box. Put it
in the chat box so we can get it posted and let everyone know. And so we may give you 90 seconds now instead of that minute.
And also, Reverend Wiggins, somebody said, great point, Reverend Wiggins. That was the teacher from Stranahan, Robin. So,
that's where my baby girl graduated from Stranahan.
Okay.
In the medical magnet program.
Okay. So just think about your closing remarks, and when you get a chance, go back. This is recorded, so it'll be up for you to go back and see. And I want people to understand that our audience is not. We are what do you call it? Demand. What do you call it? The channel when you go through the demand channel.
Yeah,
so
on demand.
You might not see all this luxury stuff up front, but people go back and view these sessions. There are a lot of people on tonight, and I think that speaks volume to what our community is looking for, and that speaks volume. So, but just doing a little bit of house cleaning. So, and you viewers out there, you view words. Say that word for me. Viewers.
Viewers.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. I'm not afraid to ask for assistance when I need it. And I think that we as a people need to understand that we can't do it by ourselves. So, So, Mr. Adderly, we'll do it in alphabetical order. All right.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to say one more time, thank you, 2 Minute Warning and the West Side Gazette for having me here this evening. I think it's been a very enriching, enlightening conversation. And I'd be remiss if I didn't use this platform to once again highlight the issues in this district that every child is suffering with. We need better access to mental health. We need better facilities in our schools. We need to pay teachers what they deserve. Most importantly, we need schools for every community that can facilitate the need of every child, every parent, and every teacher. It's for the child like Elijah that grew up in poverty, that didn't have much, that we have to step up and solve those issues, provide for those families. It's for the child like me that lost their father due to gun violence at an early age, that we have systems in place for those kids to talk to. But last but not least, we have to have new ideas, fresh vision, and bold new perspectives to solve the issues that we are going to get ourselves into. But what's most important as the candidate that's going to do it needs to be pragmatic but idealistic. And they need to sell that pragmatism and those ideas and make sure that they're not leading voters astray or telling them an untruth and what it is they want to do for their communities. We need people that are going to do it on the first day, and I believe that I'm that guy. So if you've liked what you've heard tonight, if you've liked the bold vision that I'm setting forth for our schools, then I encourage you not only to vote for me for Broward County School Board Seat 8 at large, but I'd encourage you to go to my website, RaymondAdderly.com or RaymondTakesNotes.com, whichever is easy for you. Email me at Raymond at RaymondTakesNotes.com. Sign up for my newsletter. Sign up to volunteer. And make sure that you donate because our message needs to go out and it can't happen for free. So I need you to please donate to this movement for every child. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to having some more tough conversations with all of you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Manley.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just got to say thank you to the Westside Gazette, 2 Minute Warning, Perry, Bobby, Paul, Raymond, and every one of the viewers here and across the world who might be listening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to you, reintroduce myself, and to really have the opportunity to share my vision and my platform with you. You know, I was just once a young boy who thought that I had no opportunity, that I wasn't going anywhere, that my destination was dead or in jail, as my kindergarten teacher told me as I was growing up. And now I am someone's dream, whether that's my grandmother, my ancestors' dream to be standing here today. This couldn't have happened before. You know, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years ago, I could not do this. Somebody my age, my race, could not have stood before you all today and do this, to run for office, to share our vision, to share that story with you. So I'm someone's dream. But as much as this is about me, this is about all of us. This is about imagining what we can do together as a community and as a state. You know, we've been through a lot this past year and a half with the COVID-19 pandemic plaguing our country and destroying our communities, from a lawless president who decided that this pandemic wasn't real, to a governor who refused to put our communities first. And let me make a clear promise to you. When I get to Tallahassee, I'll look Governor DeSantis in his eye and I'll tell him, it is no more times for lies, and it is no more time to put your political ambition and your presidential campaign ahead of Florida. So I know if you agree with me in this vision, that is to combat climate change, to fight for healthcare for all, to fight to end police qualified immunity, to fight for housing for all. If you agree with this simple, bold, inspirational platform that I have of serving you, of putting your needs ahead of anyone else's, then I promise that you will look at my website, you will volunteer for our campaign, you will vote for me, and hopefully you'll donate because we need your money. As Raymond said, these campaigns are expensive, and you know, every dollar helps. But more than anything, I encourage everyone to take a real deep look into your heart and start thinking big and think about what we can accomplish if we all work together. My motto is, let's build together. And what that means is we can't do any of this alone. We're starting from scratch. And to rebuild our state, you know, the president said build back better, we have to build that together. And that's so important. So I hope to have your support. I hope to serve as your state representative for District 94. I promise I will serve this community with the highest of honor, the highest of integrity, and I promise to never let you down. thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I can't wait to serve you in Tallahassee.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Wiggins.
Well, you know, having W as a last name started with a W, I've always been at the bottom of the list. Let me tell you all that it is written that it says the last shall be first. But I'm sort of delighted to be with you all tonight, particularly with these two young brothers and Bobby. Perry, thank you for this opportunity tonight. I truly believe, having come up through the system where not only was my father and members of my family educators, but in my school, my teachers went to college with my daddy. So, you know, we but I do believe that one of the most significant relationships that we talked about was a teacher-student relationship. And I think we have to build all of our resources around it. I saw one of the comments from one of our participants on the line tonight to talk about the role of a teacher. A teacher cannot do everything, and a teacher should not have to do everything. But we need to put the resources. I agree with the brother who said that they need to be paid. Everybody on this line, everybody who's participating tonight have had a student-teacher relationship. And many have gone on to become mega rich. But our teachers are still not paid according to what they're worth. They are essential and valuable employees. And not only that, but we need to make sure that our inner city schools have the same resources in terms of facilities as our schools out west. So I'm delighted to be in this race because I do want to bring a difference to District 1, which is the southeast quarter of Broward County, to bring the kind of support that says that all of our schools matter, all of our students matter, and let us bring the resources to the table to demonstrate what we've been talking about here tonight, and then watch it make a difference in the life of a child. Because there's more to come behind us to do what we're talking about tonight. And we say, come along with this community. Now, I'm looking for support. Vote me, District 1, for the Broward County School District. We'll have more of our technology up and running this week, but my email was there. Thank you for this opportunity tonight. Mm-hmm. And let's make a difference in our community.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, Bobby?
Yeah.
Man, first of all, to Elijah, to Raymond, Pastor Wiggins, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and encouraging us with your words of wisdom, your passion. Personally, I've been in politics a long time. Being the son of a preacher's kid and, just working politics. And I would say to some degree, I would, coming into this season, I'm a bit jaded. But you guys have encouraged me greatly. Because I know that there are voices out there. The thing is, we just got to work. I think be more strategic in helping those voices that speak to our betterment. I will say, it's just been my experience, and may not be accurate across the board. In fact, I know it's not. But I think one of the things that we have to get away from, especially in our community, is looking at these elections as popularity contests. I call them the high school. You know, we can't keep approaching this like we're voting for a high school president, because if I'm voting for a high school president, at best, all you can do is you can't even determine lunch money. You can't even determine. I mean, what does your high school president change? And so when we begin to look at this as, oh, that's just my friend, that's just this. We have to look at this in terms of promotion. I'm with Raymond. If you haven't done anything for me and you're in Broward, and you haven't done anything for me and you've been in Tallahassee, then why should I give you a ticket to go to DC?
Mama.
To get further away from the things that you haven't done. And that's not political, it's just factual. I mean, we all grew up. If you didn't do your chores, then you weren't going out.
Come on.
So why should I give you a ticket for doing half-ass chores? And so you guys have really, you know, for me, as I said, you've encouraged me. I want to hear more from you. I want to hear more from your opponents. I want to hear more from the people who say that they want to represent me. And don't just say you want to represent me. Come talk to me. You know, I shouldn't have to go find my representatives. And I appreciate you, Elijah. Elijah did it the old-fashioned way. He knocked on doors, and that's where I met Raymond and Pastor Wiggins. He talks about it. These are the things I think will win our community back, when we have people who are anchors in our community and who love our community. And so I pray Godspeed for all of you. I pray success. Even if that success is not in a victory, it is a success in our community and a success in your life. So I pray that, and I look forward to seeing all of you again.
Wow. You know something, Barry, that was good. Then you want to cut mine. I think that off kind of short. But once again, to everybody who commented, you know, we're certainly appreciative of it. And again, I say, please go and read the comments. I think they are truly meaningful, and they took the time to post them. So I think we should read them. So go and do that. And then I want to say, we are grateful for adversities. We are blessed because of it. Even when the farmer breaks ground, he has to create some friction, create a little bit of uneasiness to put that seed in the ground and make it grow. So for that, I want to thank each one of you for being a farmer, taking the time to plant your seed, and getting folks to water it and allow God to make it grow. Then I'm going to leave you with this, and it comes from a great author by the name of R.T. Bennett. He was the author of The Light in the Heart. And what Mr. R.T. Bennett says is, it's only after you stepped outside of your comfort zone that you begin to change, to grow, and to transform. So no matter where you are, step outside of that comfort zone. No matter how old you are, how young you are, step outside of that comfort zone and you will begin to grow. So we are thankful for your growth. We appreciate you, and let's come back and do this again. God bless you all. Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, all.